Hi everybody, my name is Dennis and welcome back to another album review. Today we're reviewing the latest record from La Dispute entitled Panorama. Now, I listened to a couple of the singles prior to this, and I wasn't just blown away at first. Because even though they had very nice instrumentals, the mixing was very uneven, with the vocals being so much quieter than all of the music that it was really difficult to appreciate. But after listening to this record a few times, I realized that that's just because it's hard to break this down into singles, but it is instead much more cohesive and enjoyable as a full-length project. And this is something that I did not expect going into this. I expected it to be solid, because like I said, the instrumentals were very enjoyable on the singles that I heard, and I really enjoyed a lot of the performances that were given on it. But I was just so disappointed with what I once saw as very poor mixing that was done just so strangely that it just didn't sound appealing. But as I listened to this album more, that sound really does grow on me quite a bit, where I don't see it as a hindrance to the album, but rather an artistic choice, where I have heard some say that, they want you to listen closely to it. They want you to have to try and hear the lyrics. They want you to focus more on the lyrics. And I think this thinking is counterintuitive. And if this is the real reason behind what they're doing, that's kind of a cheap gimmick to me. If you want someone to hear your lyrics more, you should make the music quieter and make your voice more clear and make sure to articulate what you're saying, because that's going to lead people to really hearing what you say. Whereas just making the music louder won't make people listen closer, but rather many people will just let the lyrics drown out in the background. Even though I could see how many might do this, even with many of the songs on this record, I think that this was done intentionally because there is a lot of uncertainty and a lack of appreciation for oneself that goes into a lot of what's being said on this album. And that makes me come to the conclusion that it's due to a lack of confidence and almost like he doesn't want to be heard. But that plays into the character that's presented on this album, where he chooses to be more difficult to hear because the character he's portraying here, and it may even be a manifestation of his own feelings, his own emotions, it makes it seem so much harder to hear because it just doesn't want to be heard. And I think when you look at it from that lens, it becomes much more interesting and really does add a lot of character to the things being said. And really, this just makes the moments where the vocals are that much louder, that much more aggressive, that much more powerful, stand out so much more. And a lot of times I see these lines that are louder and more aggressive and easier to pick up on are ones that are more self-deprecating, which I think again plays into what I was saying earlier of having a lack of self-confidence being a very major attribute of the speaker in these songs. And to me, this just shows how they are confident about their dislike and their distrust and of all the negative qualities they see in themselves, but as soon as they say this person says something more meaningful or more well thought out, they're less proud of it and they want to keep it more hushed, even if they do want to share it. And I think that adds so much emotion to the album that makes pretty much all of the negatives I felt towards the singles beforehand gone. And it makes songs like Rhodonite and Grief go from being enjoyable to being absolutely phenomenal, where I have come to a further appreciation of the style of vocals being put on this. And on top of that, the lyrics on this song are just absolutely amazing, much like many of the other tracks on this album, where Rhodonite and Grief takes on the ideas of trying to assist someone who is going through grief while you're grieving yourself, which is such a difficult thing to do, and it shows that difficulty through its lyrics in a very well thought out way, where you try to do everything you can to help this person, but they're still in so much grief that they're begging for you to put them out of their misery. And it's something that's really hurtful, but really emotionally powerful. And it was, on top of that, the instrumental on it is absolutely gorgeous with its very simple yet well thought out guitar lead that predominates much of the instrumental, and again the very soft, almost drowned out vocals just add to that character of the song. There were some other very strong lyrical moments on here, such as the song Fulton Street 1, which plays on the idea of continuously going down the street throughout much of one's life and seeing all of the horrible travesties that happen, whether it be finding a dead body on the road, or seeing a horrible car accident take place, or even seeing an animal get struck by a vehicle, and how this all plays into the emotions and the life that one leads, because you see this seemingly so often and it just sticks in your mind and is so difficult to deal with. And I think a lot of the powerful, difficult yet moving emotions are portrayed in a truly beautiful way that just captures me in this song every time I listen to it. On top of that, I love the very heavy, very aggressive, very almost muddled instrumentals that go into this, with some really nice subtleties, such as the nice tambourine that goes into the background being very enjoyable. And I really just enjoy pretty much every aspect of this song. And its sister song, Fulton Street 2, is a very enjoyable one as well, with its very strong evolution throughout, going between very calm, soft spots to very loud and aggressive spots very fluently, that it makes it a very enjoyable song that carries similar messages as Fulton Street 1 about the difficulties of grief and coming to terms with death. And one line that I really enjoyed off of Fulton Street 1 was, "But I never put flowers by the road, I never put flowers by the street," where he's talking about, despite seeing all this, he doesn't know how to process it all. He doesn't know what to do with these emotions he's feeling. He doesn't even know how to put flowers down by the street in memory of those who have passed on that road. And it's just such a powerful, emotional moment that I just feel entranced every time I hear this song, where I just feel like I'm learning so much about the character of this album that I almost feel like I know the person. And that's a difficult thing to convey, especially in under an hour, but it's done so tremendously well on this, and moving forward onto, for example, the song Anxiety Panorama, where the many of the lyrics talk about how this person tried to help someone they cared about, but they ended up just making it about themselves. They ended up pushing their loved ones' feelings and fears and emotions down, and then they realize this, and they realize that they can't get it back. They can't earn the trust of this person once again, and it just kills them it just kills them inside to think that they made their loved one's situation that much worse. And it's kind of the idea of, I feel bad for making someone else feel bad. And he talks about how he built up his own statues in their scars, where he's saying that he made their own pains and agonies that really were so much worse than what he was feeling, and he just minimized it and put his own thoughts in there, his own feelings in there, instead of just listening to what their problems were. He always tried to find whether it be trying to fix the problem or interjecting his own problems into the situation, instead of just taking the time to sit down and listen to what was going on. And it's a very heavy track for sure, and it has a very powerful guitar riff that I enjoyed quite a bit that really makes it stand out as a track. But I think lyrically is where this song really does shine. From there, we have a bit more of a lukewarm pace in the album, where these are by no means a chore to sit through. They're still solid songs, but relatively speaking, I don't find them quite as impactful. That being in Northern Michigan and View from Our Bedroom Window, which I think are still solid songs, and they definitely earn their keep on the album, even though I think instrumentally they can leave much to be desired, especially the song In Northern Michigan, which I feel is a bit too stripped back instrumentally. I wish it had been maybe a bit more elaborate, maybe had a bit of a stronger tune behind it, or maybe if it just added a bit more dense instrumentation just to add to this song, because although the vocals are soft in this, much like many of the other songs, the instrumentals feel just as soft, which kind of removes you from a lot of the atmosphere that this album had done such an amazing job of building up to. Still, it's a solid song overall, but it just isn't that great in relation to many of the songs around it. But from there, the album does quickly pick up once again with the song Footsteps in the Pond, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I love the upbeat, fun, and riveting guitar riffs that go into it. This is another song that really did grow on me as I listened to it more. And it's just a really enjoyable tune. It's well written as well, and it really does make you think pretty in depth about a lot of what it's saying. It's very abstract, as many of the other symbols throughout this album are, but it's so satisfying to look through and to try and figure out what all the meaning is, because it's not difficult to come to a conclusion on what the meaning of many of these songs are, but it is a bit tricky, and it is very intertangled and interweaved from song to song about just the whole story of love, loss, death, grief, and the struggles of one's own emotions. And a lot of these themes are brought to light on the song There You Are, or Hiding Place, where it's just almost like an appreciation of their significant other, where he's so thankful that she's always there to help him through all of his struggles, even when he's acting in an inappropriate manner, or he's treating her poorly, and he secludes and isolates himself, how she's always there for him, and she always is there with him in his hiding place. She's always able to find him and bring him out of this dark hole. And this album is all tied together really beautifully with a spoken word piece that's very long, but it doesn't feel all that long. It has a nice, simple instrumental behind it, and that's the song You Ascendant. Now, there are various spoken word pieces throughout the album, kind of just sprinkled throughout many of the songs, and for the most part, they are very nice, and I don't think they distract from the song, but more just show a lot of, like I was saying, the character of the man behind the music, where it just further plays into that soft, timid, really just a lack of confidence that is playing throughout much of the mind and heart and soul of the character in this album. And the song You Ascendant, again, ties a lot of that up and shows a lot of the really great themes of this album, where a lot of it is, although it starts off reflecting on the love he has between this person, it eventually turns into reflecting on his eventual death. And it's done in a way that is very interesting, very intriguing, in a way of like saying how if he dies, or when he dies, he wants to die with her. And he talks about how if we could choose the way we die, how if we could just like put check boxes on a ballot of what we want to happen. He talks about all of the ways that he would choose to go, whether it be on a peaceful morning sipping coffee with that person he cares about, or if they can just go into a dreamland almost. And dreams are a very big symbol throughout the album and are used for many different things, whether they be an escape from reality, whether it be looking to a better future, or in this case being almost a middle ground between life and death, where they go out and they just look into a dream and they go peacefully in their sleep and they end up happy in the end. And he also does reflect much on the afterlife, wondering what it would be like, what kinds of things they would see, whether it be grassy or if it would be a bright light shining down on them, and just so many things that make you wonder what could it be like. It's a very introspective, a very well thought out, and a very beautiful track. So overall, this album is phenomenal. I loved so many tracks on here, and it does a very great job of making the listener really contemplate many of the same things that the singer is contemplating, of life, death, grief, love, loss, and so many emotions that go in between and the struggles that one feels. And it does this in a very beautiful, unique way that many other bands are just unable to do. And this is an emo rock album, so take that with a grain of salt if you don't care for the genre, but this is one of the best emo albums I've heard in a very long time. I'm feeling a light 9 on this album. Definitely be sure to check it out. Again, the very strange mixing may be difficult to appreciate at first, but after a couple of listens, it definitely does grow on you, and you really come to appreciate the beauty and subtlety behind it. At least I know I did. So, tell me what you thought of the album. Be sure to tell me how wrong my opinion is, as always, and I will see you in the next review.